Hello and welcome to the FMG podcast here with our Christmas special episode. I'm your host, Carl. With me, as always, are my partners in crime, Adam
Hello.
and Andy.
G'day.
And we have a lot of good topics, but the first thing we have to mention right off the bat is we need to encourage our viewers to go out and thumbs down the other FMG podcast on YouTube that stole our name and they're taking all our viewers from us. So
They may have used their name before we did, but that
Oh,
does not
100%.
mean that they did not steal it from us.
Yeah, definitely. Like these are, if anyone is wondering, FMG is the initials of all our names, so we own that. So they can just go fuck off.
We own our name.
Yes, episode 2, we've already started turf war. I'm
Yeah.
loving this. This is great, yeah.
But yeah, with the other FMG podcast guys, I'm sure they're really nice people, but yeah, just thumbs down their videos so they can change their name.
What have we
Let's
got?
get into the news because we had a big announcement this week that I wanted to start talking about because we have
Ooh.
discussed this topic slightly in the past. I thought it was worth talking about. The new 40k television show that's going to be airing. So it's a new Space Marine show. It's going to be animated. I thought, basically, what I wanted to ask you guys is the big hot button questions. Do you think 40k could ever work as a TV show, or for that matter, do you think this will ever work? Could it ever work? What do you think?
Personally, I'll start off here. I think personally, the incompetent writers in any kind of project are what you need, and I just hope to God they get someone who's half competent with this. The previous 40k film that I've watched fully, just called Warhammer 40k, is it Space Marine or Ultramarine?
No, Ultramarines.
Ultramarine is how can I put it? It is a pile of shit. It is just you know what? I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's that bad. Any property, I reckon, with a good writer can succeed very well. And 40k has some really good stories in it. It's got some really, it's got some really high stakes that you could build something out of. And we've seen both sides of official writing and in fan-made animations that, we've shared amongst each other. One of the biggest one is if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device. So a great little comedy on the whole setting. I reckon, yeah, it could totally work, but like anything, you need
But
some
that's
good
a parody.
people.
That's different from an actual
But that's
film.
still something. That's still something. Like, you can still make a life out of it. Or like the Space Hulk animation by Flash Kids, I still hold up as one of the best 40k kind of parodies or comedies in a way, trying to take it seriously. It's if you got some good people behind it, you can succeed. Regardless of what material you're working with, regardless how dumb it is.
I respectfully disagree. I think that 40k will never work as a television show. And the reason why I believe that is because 40k relies on, when you think about good writing in 40k, you think about the Black Library and things of that nature. That relies on a pre-standing understanding of the basically it relies on the audience having already an understanding of the 40k universe. You can't make a TV show and the amount of exposition required at the start of a television show, it just wouldn't work for the average masses. They're like, I don't care, this is just the Imperium and this is just like chaos. It just wouldn't work. It works in a video game because it's just like bad guys, good guys, here's a gun, a cool setting. All the Black Library novels, they start off as if you already know who Space Marines are. You already know who Orcs are. You already know these things, and they just add to it.
No, I disagree. Just on the part that a lot of Black Library novels, especially I've read a lot of Dan Abnett's work, the Gaunt's Ghost series, but also the Commissar Kane series as well. A lot of those start off with a little preamble that used to be the start of all the 40k rule books, just on it is the dawn of the 41st millennium, there is only war, that whole preamble. The actual 40k as a setting is kind of apart from the things that we really enjoy about it, you can really boil it down to some quite generic ideas of what the Imperium is, what the alien races are, which are just reskins of fantasy races. You could, I disagree, Carl. I don't think you need a
Nah,
lot of background
I
knowledge. It depends. It depends, and that's why I say the writing would obviously, if you're going to make it like, if we're talking TV mainstream, then there's obviously got to be a bit of explaining. But people are smart. They can get ideas
I
just
don't think
through
they can.
imagery and showing things off. I totally think they
I tell
can.
you why. I tell you why as well. Because you say there's like a little bit of a thing saying, in the 41st millennium there is only war. But
Yeah.
the average audience member will go, why is there only war? What's happened in the time that they ask all these questions that you and I already either know or we already just understand is a
Yeah, but that's
non-answer
what the
question
show
in
then
40K.
presents. If we take Star Wars' little preamble or Flash Gordon's little preamble that it copied off, as a bit of a, this is what's happening in the story. Now we're just going to go with it. It's just like,
40K is
okay.
way more complex. When you get down to
No,
Star
it's
Wars, it
not.
is no
No,
Star
it's
Wars.
not. If you wanted to put in everything, well, then you're obviously shooting yourself in the foot. But if you focus on something small and you give it the detail it requires, and you keep that focus like set on one conflict between, all right, Space Marines versus Chaos, or you put in some Eldar in there. That's like the classic one. Or you chuck in some orcs there, and you just play off that. People will get it. It's all about how you frame it and how you build it, and not just being like, all right, we're going to teach you everything about 40k now, because you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
But
I basically agree with Andy. I think you don't need, well, you absolutely don't need to go into the entirety of the lore in the first 10 minutes of episode 1. I mean, you just give them the basic background, and then you let the story also inform the setting. I mean, people do pick up on things. You can, but also not just in terms of the story as per plot and characters, but television is also a very visual medium, and you can get a lot of information across just by background details and things like that. So I don't think it's impossible if it's done well. On that said, I don't think you could reasonably make a 40k television series with mass market appeal. But I don't think that's really what they're going for. I think it's just a relatively small animated project, which, and this should hopefully answer some of Andy's concerns. I think like the head writers are Black Library writers. So
yeah, well, that you may say that, Adam, but the guy who wrote Ultramarine was Dan Abnett, who was the same guy I was vouching for
well,
before. So
that is true. I mean,
yeah.
screenwriting is not like book writing.
Mm.
There are different skills.
you can't
Mm.
compare it,
Somewhat.
Andy. You can't compare it with Star Wars when Star Wars has the Empire and the Rebels. That's it.
Yeah, no, but okay,
The amount
you frame it as, and you'd be like, all right, we'll make this like, okay, if you
Like
have
Andy said, there's no reason why you can't just have season 1, Space Marines and Eldar, and don't worry about any of the other stuff. Maybe you can mention it in passing, but you don't need to explain the orcs and where the orcs come from and where in the galactic plane the Tower live, and the Horus Heresy, all in by episode 2. If you keep it small, compact, focused, you can keep it relatively simple, and I don't think there's no reason not to. On the contrary, I think if you tried to include as much stuff as possible, and you did try to get across the entirety of 40k lore, it would be a disaster. It would be completely unworkable.
But
yeah.
that's what makes 40k so great. It's that detail.
Oh,
When you
yeah,
get
but
hold up, Andy. When you get down to it, the Elder versus Space Marine scenario you propose, I don't see in any world that being entertaining. I think that's what draws us to 40k is the many nuances of every single army. I don't think it's the fact that either faction is particularly interesting, especially when they're conflicting with each other.
Well, okay, no,
But I mean,
no. Okay,
I think the
I'll give you a
Imperium
proper
itself,
pitch.
the Imperium itself is probably interesting enough to have a series about, even without any Xenos or Chaos. Or maybe not without Chaos. You need something for the Inquisition, but there's enough going on within the lore of the Imperium that you could make multiple TV series. In my opinion,
for sure. Yeah, I reckon like maybe not a TV. I could see a Netflix series of like you have.
Okay, sure, but I mean that's what.
Yeah, I know, but I mean like
some
no,
kind
like
of
to me
visual
like
medium across episodes.
yeah. Like being more specific, I guess. But like I could see a story where, all right, you've got a Imperial Guard commissar first arrives in a battlefield. He's coming up with these battle-hardened soldiers who've been fighting in. I'm just going to say it's just going to be Stalingrad or behind enemies at the gate. You know, you've got that film where it's a very loose interpretation of the Battle of Stalingrad, but you're getting some pretty important historical events boiled down to a couple of characters having some, you know, some adventures, some victories here and there, the turning point against the Germans. You know, what's
Yeah, if
But
it?
Andy,
anything,
that's not a
Andy,
TV show. Andy,
Yeah.
that's not a TV show. A TV show is little Jimmy on the farm decides to run away, join the army, and it progresses about how he like goes. That's a TV show, not
Oh,
just
okay,
like
okay. So
but
you
what
got
about?
something
Well,
like Band
here's
of
the thing.
Brothers. You know.
That's exactly the example I was going to say, Andy. I mean,
Hmm.
you could just make Imperial Guard Band of Brothers, and it would work.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
no scene in Band of Brothers in episode 1 where it says 1942. The United States has been at war with
yes, it
fascist Nazi
does.
Germany. No, it doesn't.
It does. If you watch
There's no
Band of
history
Brothers,
lesson.
there's exposition at the start from all the veterans about what is going on. And in
Oh, well,
Pacific, the sequel, there's a map narrated by Tom Hanks.
Okay,
Just
even
the
better.
Pacific is not as good as
You
Band
no, I
of
know,
know, but
Brothers.
yeah.
so I get what you're trying to say, Adam. That was just not a good example. I get what you were
No,
saying.
but Carl, I think that's even better. If you even had
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
soldiers, even have soldiers talking like veterans, like survivors talking about what they had to fight through, like it was an actual war. Because like
That's
That's
what
one
I
of
was saying.
a
It's
cool
yeah,
idea.
mention things in passing to build the world up gradually. You
yeah,
don't need to
and
give a
but
doom and
also
dump at the
like
start.
have it almost being told retroactively by the soldiers about like what happened because like one marketing um advertising campaign that I thought was really amazing was for, I think it was Halo 3, where they had ads where they just literally had veterans from the USMC, I think is
Yeah,
the military, yeah?
UNSC, and it was Halo.
UNS, sorry,
Like,
MC, I think's aliens. Anyway, and they were just talking like, oh yeah, and I was there when the Master Chief like died or when he was fighting, you know, and they
yes.
were building up this legend, and it's like, okay, it's totally fake, but all they're talking about is I was there on a battlefield, I fought with these guys, and this man, and you just build it up over the course of every episode, like you're just getting like what the stakes are getting to, and they're all talking about and that moment when the commissar said this, you know, and you know, you could build it up like that. It could be really good. We
But if
should do it,
anything,
guys.
Andy,
We should just do it.
But
Andy,
then they
I've
make
seen we've had enough campaigns that I think we all know the quality of your writing, Andy.
Yeah, I
that
wasn't
is a
saying I was
stab
gonna
and a
write it.
half
I
right
was hey,
there.
I never said I was gonna write it. I was actually gonna suggest you, Adam. I was gonna throw you under the bus for the
Uh,
writing.
Andy, if it's
Andy's
any
the leading
I'm,
man. He's
I'm
the
Andy,
the
I
guy in front
yeah,
of the
write a
screen.
I'm the
campaign.
leading man. I'm the commissar with the you know the manly beard and everything. It'll be great.
But Andy, I think what you've really highlighted actually is one of my concerns, potential concerns about the project, which is I know I
Hmm.
already said that I'm worried about GW being too Space Marine centric, but really, if I was going to make a series, the easiest and most sensible entry point is with the Guard because they're
Hmm.
regular people, they have families, that gives you an easy sort of cut back to civilian life in the Imperium.
Relatable.
It's relatable. It's very easy to have a kind of everyman character that you can introduce details of the story to. But
Exactly.
if you base
You
it
know,
around Space Marines, you've instantly gone into this kind of part of the lore, which even though it's in tabletop terms very, very popular, in lore terms, I mean, Space Marines are very cloistered. They're very isolated. They don't have relationships really with other characters who are not Space Marines.
Yeah, okay. All right, I hear you, right? And this is
I'm not
us
saying it can't be
brainstorming the
done.
show now.
I'm not saying it
You know,
can't be done. I'm
and
just
this
saying
is us.
they're
Yeah.
making. I think they're making it hard for themselves by focusing on the, let's say, potentially more marketable aspect rather than what might be best for storytelling. But we'll see. We'll see how they do.
We'll see how our project goes. I'll be talking to you
Andy?
later, Adam. Yeah.
You know what's funny, Andy?
I'm getting
Well,
a telling off from the teacher.
You know what's funny, Andy?
Oh, here we go.
The Halo 3 commercials, I agree, were fantastic. And then when they went to make a Halo television short series, they went with exactly what I thought they would, and it was about like a group of teenagers and about them going and joining the thing and about their lives, and it was kind of like the conventional TV approach.
I remember that. What was the name of that? That
Forward
was
Until Dawn.
Yeah,
Forward
that's right.
Until Dawn.
And they
Yeah.
met the Master Chief as well, didn't they? I thought that that was a bit dumb, but yeah,
But
no,
that doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means it was done badly.
Can we just have a side note and say, like, why is it like, obviously budget is a massive factor because all these Space Marine, like all these movie properties and television properties coming out of GW look like shit. Like that even that trailer did not look good. I don't know whether it's something about the Space Marine armor itself. It just can't look good in an animated setting, but I don't know. Like, do you guys think it's really low budget?
I hope that the issue is just it's really early on in the production process, and so the CG is a little bit rough. It's not fully rendered, but I do agree that it looked a little bit. I mean, I've seen fan projects which had better visual design than
it looked worse.
Trailer.
It looked worse than the Dawn of War opening from Dawn of War 1, which was in 2004.
Oh my god.
Well, I wouldn't say it looked worse graphically.
Hey, hang on, Carl. Wait a second.
Sequence is pretty fucking great.
Carl, are you
just as a
dissing
piece
the
of
greatest like piece of media for 40k? The Dawn of War intro, the cinematic. Am I getting you right here?
No. All I'm saying is that Dawn of War, it should be way better than that, just because that was animated so long ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just a trailer. It's not even
a
trailer. It's just a teaser.
I didn't even notice it. Like, I was trying to work out how it's going to be animated, and it was literally just like, hey, we got it. Here's like a 3D model of a Space Marine. Like,
no, I know what Carl is talking about.
I
think it's too early. I think it's too early to say for sure, but we'll see. I mean, I hope that they put the effort in and they put the budget in to make it look good.
You can make it work, but you gotta know how to make it work. You've like with the aliens from the Alien franchise, like when it was dark, cramped, when you didn't have tons of bright lights, when they were literally molded in the wall so you couldn't tell, and then they pop out. Damn, that was scary. Like, they're so worked. But as soon as you get them out in Aliens vs Predator, out in the suburbia, running around streets killing people, you just go, oh, this is a bit silly. This doesn't look right. That's, you just got to know how to make it look good. And look, they have done live action ones in the past. A lot of them have looked rubbish, but a couple of those shots looked kind of decent. And I was sitting there going, if you built on that, you could make something. So I'm hopeful, but, I've certainly been wrong in the past about this kind of stuff. So see where you go.
So this is our Christmas special of the podcast. And so we want to put in a Christmas question here. So it's going to be the best Christmas film. And Andy, I think you're going to go first with this one and give us your 2 cents.
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, man. It is Die Hard. Die Hard is the best Christmas film. There are definitely, hey, I'm not discounting, there are a lot of really great Christmas films, some of which I do watch before Christmas as a ritual. But Die Hard, I feel like whenever I hear that name, I'm just like, yeah, I could watch this forever. I could watch this for every single Christmas till the end of time. It is such a classic, well-produced, tight-knit, tightly paced action flick, all about bringing the family back together for Christmas and stopping the people trying to spoil it for everybody else. So, yeah, John McClane is my man. He's my Santa Claus for this Christmas.
All right, so I think that the best Christmas movie is by far the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh
That
my god!
I'm
No.
I'm joking.
No.
No, I was gonna go with Gremlins. I think Gremlins is my favorite Christmas movie for many different reasons, and I think it just has aged magnificently. I heard they're trying to do a remake, which I don't want because I think Gremlins is just perfect on its own, and it just has that Christmas vibe, and it's just a straight up good movie. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Gremlins. Produced by Steven Spielberg as well, by the way.
Oh no, go Steven. Another Steven Spielberg film. Jeez, he literally, how many has he done? Sounds like he's done everything.
He hits it in
Well,
the
he has produced a lot of films,
produced.
not all of which are amazing. It's worth saying, but
Yeah.
Adam?
Oh, I have not seen Gremlins. I'll have to pop that on the list. Carl?
Well, that's going to make things pretty shit for this conversation. But Adam,
I must confess, I also haven't seen it.
Okay,
But,
go ahead, Adam.
Well, to be honest, my answer is going to be by far the worst. Somehow even worse than Die Hard.
Wow.
Because I don't have one.
You don't.
I'm going full on bar humbug on this conversation topic.
Wow.
No.
I have no opinions on Christmas films whatsoever. I don't think I mean, in terms of what I would call a quote unquote proper Christmas film, I don't really think there's any that I super enjoy a huge amount. I'm not saying that they're all
You're
terrible.
just a downer, Adam.
Why don't you just say Die Hard there? That's easy.
Look,
That's easy out.
Because
Adam.
Die Hard is such a 2010 answer. You know, you got to move on with the times, Andy.
Wow.
It's gotten old.
Are you
It's
saying?
gotten old.
Wow, hang on. Are you saying is Die Hard is no longer the king? What is this?
No, I mean Die Hard. No, what I'm saying is Die Hard is a fantastic movie, which I love, but
there we go.
The opinion that Die Hard is the best Christmas movie is one of these things which started out.
No good Christmas movie.
It started out as a great joke / conversation topic and has just been so badly beaten to death ever since.
So I want to say something to you, Andy. Okay, just to give you a bit of a foundation here, I love Die Hard. I think it's freaking awesome. When I was 16 years old, I had the brilliant idea that I wanted to get Die Hard tattooed on my back because I was like,
that's beautiful, Carl. You're real dedicated, man.
I basically said to myself, this movie is awesome and it will be awesome forever. And this is the best decision I'm going to make. Thankfully, I've grown up a lot since then. But
wait, Carl, what did you mean by get Die Hard tattooed on your back?
You're going to just get John
when you say that,
on your back.
When you say that, it reminds me of that the clip in The Simpsons of when Homer's talking, they're talking about Homer writing fan mail to movies.
Yeah, you Die Hard, you rock. P.S. Have you met seriously, I was gonna get Die on one shoulder blade and Hard on the other shoulder.
Oh wow, Carl, Jesus.
Okay, but that gives you the devotion. Okay,
hang on. What stops you? I want to know what stops you.
I grew up, Andy, and I got my 16-year-old brain was chock full of weekend beers, Doritos, and it was not functioning at the level it should have been functioning. So
some might argue that continues to the present day.
Sick burn. But anyway, my argument is, Andy, is I don't think Die Hard's a Christmas movie. I think that a Christmas movie has to revolve around Christmas, and I think Die Hard is just set at Christmas time. There's nothing about it when I think Die Hard, I don't think Christmas at all. I even forget that it's a Christmas movie, and no one at Christmas time goes, "Oh my God, it's Christmas! I feel like getting the Christmas spirit. I'm gonna watch Die Hard." They're literally. Gremlins, the whole premise of Gremlins is centered around Christmas. Like the whole idea is that he he gets the Mogwai or Gizmo for a present for Christmas. That's the main point of the plot. It makes it a Christmas movie. Die Hard's not a Christmas movie.
Wow, that's some pretty harsh words there, Carl. Look.
Did they mention anything to do with Christmas?
Well, apart from the quintessential line, "I have a machine gun, ho ho ho," and the only reason why John McCain is going down there is because he's been accidentally invited to the Christmas party to meet with his estranged wife. You know,
But that's a Christmas party movie, not a Christmas movie. You get what I mean?
but it's still like it's
Well,
still.
I mean-
no, but he's still. You don't. Okay, it's not the day Christmas, but you have the weeks leading up to Christmas. You have the build up to Christmas, buying presents, arranging times to meet up with family members you haven't seen in ages. You know, this is literally the build up to that.
No, Andy, I
build
love
up
how
to
you're putting like themes of getting together with family and all that kind of shit into a Die Hard movie. That's what you're
No, but
basically
that's what.
telling
Why
me
is John
right now.
McCain there? Why is he doing any of this? Sure, he's a police officer, but at the same time, his wife's there, stuck in that office with the rest of the hostages. You know, he's literally like that's the only reason why he's there.
I'm not hearing any Christmas. I'm not hearing John McCain
All
was
right,
the
all right, all
Christmas
right. So
spirit
wait, but it
that they
depends on
hope.
what your idea of Christmas is. Some people says you get the family together and you share presents, and you know you build each other up as a family. You know, you have that
No,
moment of
Andy,
thanks.
No one's
But like
idea of
some,
Christmas is
hang on. Well,
going on a
what's your one
shooting
got to do with
rampage.
Christmas? Your one only has to do with like I don't know. Someone bought a present, so it goes into like
No, there's
the
Christmas imagery throughout the whole
oh,
entire
so it's
movie.
just gonna
The
have
Gremlins
Christmas imagery.
No. It's if you watch Gremlins, 100% throughout the whole thing, you never forget that it's Christmas time. You like I know Christmas means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but I'm telling you now, no one at Christmas time it means Die Hard time. That's not the case.
Not jumping out of windows, God. Yippee-ki-yay. Oh. Well, I'm just disappointed, Carl. That's all I am. Just
Adam, why do you
disappointed.
hate Christmas movies?
Why do
why
you
do you
Christmas,
hate-
Adam?
I never said that I hated Christmas movies.
You said you hated
But-
fun.
No, I never said that. I do, but I never said that. No, look, I mean, let's say for the sake of discussion that I agree, at least in principle, with Carl's assessment of what is a Christmas film. There are Christmas films I've seen fitting that definition, which I enjoy well enough, but none of them would crack my top, probably even 100 films in general. And so I don't think it's really appropriate to call any of them my favorite anything. So, I mean, that's
Okay.
just it. Full
Yeah,
stop.
but hang on. But that's okay. I see there's a flaw in your logic there where it's like, that's if it's your top 100 films. But we're just talking about all of the Christmas films you've watched. Which would be your favorite of those? Like if you were forced to watch a Christmas
Yeah,
film.
but Andy, I'm
Which one
saying,
would you
like,
watch?
if I had the choice to watch any of them again,
I wouldn't.
even.
Very
Like,
true.
It's like fine enough to watch one time in my life,
Well,
but
all right.
otherwise,
Then if you're not going to choose, then someone's going to be like Star Wars Christmas Special because Adam loves Star Wars. Yeah, let's put that on. It'll be great.
I don't
Well-
think anyone who was aware of the existence of the Star Wars Christmas special would think that anyone actually enjoys it.
Hey, but
it is-
Adam, who would have like? Oh yeah, true. No one would have had it.
I have a tradition of watching the Star Wars special every single year. I was hoping you would join me on this endeavor and tradition.
Adam, help me, Adam.
The only
But-
thing I can help you with, Andy, is by sending you enough money to buy a lot of booze.
to buy a gun and put a bullet.
Put Carl out of his misery. Oh Christ! Why would you do that to yourself, Carl? Out of curiosity.
Oh, because I just feel like it is. I don't know, God. I think it's like a bit of a fun thing to watch a shitty movie, and I think it's just like it kind of gets me in the holiday spirit, you know, as shit as it is.
Yeah.
And but like, can I propose something like, just so we all agree, does anyone here like Home Alone? Because all I ever hear about is Home Alone around Christmas time, and I actually think it's a pretty shit movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it because I have a list of Christmas movies according to Google here, and it is on there. Home Alone and Home Alone 2, in fact.
Home Alone.
Um, but I mean, they're not movies which I like that much. I mean, they're okay, I guess, but that particular style of slapstick comedy is not really my thing. Movies with child actors are also generally not my thing. Although, not to
Children are
say,
just not my thing, Adam.
not to say that it's the child acting is bad in these movies. It's not. It's just.
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay. I'm speaking
Well,
comparatively, but
Oh yeah, true. Child
but
actors are terrible in every movie. You see a movie and there's a kid in it, you're like, oh fuck. They're usually the worst part. Like,
but
just
yeah,
get rid of all the kids in
I don't.
movies.
I think Home Alone is a movie that people watch when they're kids and they love, and then they carry that with them through to adulthood. But I don't
Yeah.
think I ever saw Home Alone until I was like a teenager, maybe, and so it was probably not really my sort of thing then. And
You had
so I
some
mean,
common sense by then.
well, you know,
I
I
mean,
don't want to put it that way, but
I honestly can't remember any scene or anything iconic from Home Alone apart from the poor burglars just getting just eviscerated repeatedly by whatever traps the kid's coming up with. It just seems super generic to me in a lot of
Cheesy,
ways.
right? Well, the
Yeah.
main iconic scene is him putting the aftershave on after shaving. I'm like,
Oh no,
where's the
I thought it
joke
was just
there?
his face. I thought it was just
mm,
his face just going, oh, like
No,
that.
no,
You know,
he's
that's
putting the aftershave on. It stings. I'm like, where's the joke there? Like, who thought like, wow, this is the joke, guys. We've got it. This.
look, I don't know, Carl. I don't know.
Well,
Mm,
anyway, I was going to mention as well, we got another topic here about. So this topic came about because I was tweeting about spoilers on Twitter, how much I hate them, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk about, what really constitutes an actual spoiler. What is a spoiler? So I thought that would be a good topic to move on from, because in this day and age, especially with like being able to binge watch TV shows, people watching TV shows at different times, it's a relevant topic. So what do you guys think about what actually constitutes a spoiler?
Yeah, this is a really. I mean, I don't think we're going to come to a common definition on this one.
oh,
It's a
come
very
on, Adam, have some
tricky.
faith.
It's a philosophical topic. There's a lot of angles you can take. I'm not sure you can even really make a fully consistent definition of a spoiler for every situation.
Yeah, because my
I,
definition is different from yours, I'm sure. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to give you a definition to start off with, although that would be quite neat. But I'll tell you some things which I think are and aren't spoilery, maybe.
Go for it.
If it's a historical film, nothing related to historical fact can be considered a spoiler, first of all. I mean,
Okay.
if you tell me that the Titanic sinks at the end, I don't think I can reasonably say, "Whoa, dude, spoiler." That's just the premise of. I mean, the concept of history as things happening is too broad of a concept. Um, I think this one is maybe okay. Well, first of all, obviously, major plot points. Um, definitely major plot points which don't happen at the beginning. I think are spoilers.
So you think if it happens at the beginning, it's okay?
I'm not saying if it happens at the beginning it's okay, but I think it can be okay depending. Definitely. I think general information about the setting or the broad, if like give something a one sentence plot synopsis, can't really be considered a spoiler. If you don't want to hear it, that's fine. But if I tell you that, if you say, tell me about this movie, oh, it's a movie where something happens and then blah, and that's the idea, I mean, you can't call that spoilers. That's just
well, no, because it depends on what that thing is. You know,
well, again,
that could
not
be
major
that could
plot
be the
points.
yeah, it could be like the twist that changes everything.
Well, no,
That
but no,
Well,
I
do
don't
you have
think
any other
Yes, there is one
points,
other
Adam?
thing.
What other things? Just yeah, go ahead.
This one I think is the one that's on shakiest ground. But, and this is sort of answering Andy's previous objection, I don't think you have to give away a twist for it to be a spoiler. I think it's enough to give away that there is a twist. I think that constitutes a spoiler as well, because it alters my expectations of the film going in. Like if you tell me, oh man, wait till the ending. It's gonna,
yeah.
completely change everything else that you. I'm like, the whole movie, I'm just spending waiting to see what the twist is gonna be, and I think that interferes with the viewing experience on the first time. That's not to say that spoilers are a bad thing. I want to get out of the way. I don't think they necessarily are. It can be, not always. It's also not always a bad thing to go into a movie knowing what happens.
Well, I want to
Someone,
trail. I want to
but
trail off you said there,
all
Adam.
right. Well, go
So
ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
yeah, because mine's very similar to what you said at the end there. So basically, I'm in a very small minority where I almost take everything as a spoiler. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but I literally have people tell me, I won't spoil anything for you, but yeah, it was a sad movie, okay? And so basically, what happens is when I'm watching said movie, no, no,
Carl goes
it's like,
into Schindler's List and he's like,
I
I was,
was
I
looking
was
no,
hoping
forward
for
okay,
to
something a
I
little
was
more
looking
okay,
forward
jovial.
to
no,
this
no,
lovely
no,
man making a list. What's going
no,
on?
no, bear with me on this. Bear with
I
me. If
thought
someone
this was
says,
a Christmas movie.
no, wait, basically, when someone says to me, the movie was really sad, and I'm watching a happy movie, and then a character in the movie,
Okay,
something
yeah.
something happens to them, I'm like, okay, now I know they're gonna die because nothing sad's happened, and someone told me this ends up being a sad movie. So that right away ruins. And they're like, how is that a spoiler? Me just saying it's a sad movie. I'm like, well, you ruined it. And another thing as well with spoilers,
But what if it happened right at the start?
so I do think you can spoil openings because I think sometimes openings are the best parts of the movie. And just because you spoil the opening
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
And I also think as well, like in trailers, something that annoys the shit out of me. I can't even watch. I try not to watch trailers for movies I know I'm gonna watch because what
Yeah,
happens
same here, same
yeah,
here.
I will see. This is as far as I'll go. Okay, maybe it's just because you and me, Adam and Andy. I'm assuming as well. We're the kind of people where we don't just passively watch movies. We very actively engage and think about them. And basically, what happens is I'll watch a movie trailer, and then I'll see a character in a certain scene in the trailer. Then I'm watching the movie, and that character's in peril. I know they're going to get out of it because I'm like, but I remember there was another scene in the trailer, well, I haven't seen yet, which has that character in it. So I know they're going to get out of this okay. Like things
Well,
that,
there's always the risk of reshoots.
no, but what,
Yeah.
basically trying to illustrate that every
Yeah, I
little
get you.
thing
I get you.
is literally a spoiler because I'm that much thinking about it. It's ridiculous. And I want to mention one thing about the history thing, Adam. I take your point about major historical events. Like if, Hitler dies at the end of your movie, it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. But I do think that in some cases, like for example, I think that I could spoil The Aviator for my girlfriend who hasn't watched it because she doesn't know anything about Howard Hughes's life. She doesn't even know who Howard Hughes is. So for the majority of people, if it's a certain person that it's not like mainstream knowledge what happens, it can be a spoiler even if it's historical. That's what I think.
All right.
Mm.
Well, I mean, I have more things to say, but Andy, maybe you should
I
take a turn.
look definitely the question of what constitutes a spoiler. It's it's literally anything. Like as you guys were saying, someone's response to a film. The fact that these are all clues that can give you an idea of the film, and it comes from an idea that you should be going into a piece of media with no kind of idea of what's going to be or what's going to happen, because maybe that's how you enjoy media, not having an idea of where this is going to take you. It might be a war film that takes a really dark turn, or something becomes incredibly silly halfway through. And it's funny, like after you guys just talking then, I feel like I can't give examples now because those would constitute spoilers for anything I could do. I've also got a friend, Kyle, who it's come to a point where I actually can't talk to him about things. So I'm like, hey, I really enjoyed this show. And he'd be like, yep, nah, don't tell me about it. And the one problem is that half the time I know he's never going to get to it. And I
Oh,
really feel
that's
like
annoying.
it's annoying, but I also feel like whenever he talks to me, he's just like,
I
oh,
feel very attacked right now.
yeah, no, it's not you. It's not you. It's another man. But there's been times where I'm actually completely fine with spoilers half the time, just because it's like, look, if your film or book or whatever is good enough, the build up to that point will get me, like, it'll get me there. It'll get me to that emotional point where I'll be like, oh my god, is this actually going to happen? Or this is going to happen, and I'm just literally like somehow maybe they lied to me, maybe something happened, they gave me the misinformation, or they read it wrong, and it's it can still have to build up. At least you can have some discussion. Anything could be a spoiler. That's the issue, and I feel
Definitely.
like maybe the
Well, it's
question's a bit like maybe the question was what a kind of acceptable spoiler is there or something, because I think even if you described a film, the way you could describe it could completely like, especially the way some people describe things. I myself find myself bad at doing this sometimes, where you just won't get the right words, or you might give away something right at the beginning, and you're just like, oh, that changes the whole perception of things. So I don't know. I feel like it's yeah.
but Andy,
Anything
I just
else?
wanted to
I
say
think.
something. Just on Andy's point, then I'll let you go, Adam. I just want to
Mhm.
say that, yeah, I agree. It is case by case basis, because I think with certain people, Andy, I agree that I've talked to someone about, like, for example, the movie True Romance. After I watched that, I tried to get some of my friends to watch it, and I really had to spoil it because I knew they weren't going to watch it. I said,
Mm,
True Romance is one of those movies where the first 10 minutes you're going to be thinking, what the fuck am I watching? This is like just a romantic movie, and then suddenly it just completely does a 180 and it goes
yep.
on a crazy course, and
A-
that was the only way for me to actually get them to watch that movie.
And Carl, I reckon that is the reason why, like, as much as you hate those trailers, that's why the trailers will spoil little bits of the film, just to be like, hey, like, we got, like, we know, like, some people just gotta watch a film because they want to watch a film, but we need to entice other people to be like, hey, maybe this film is special to you. We'll give away certain little plot points, and you can be like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where the film's going. Let's have a go at it. I'm actually
Yeah, it's a marketing
enticed.
thing.
I know. I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of people go to M. Night Shyamalan films because of, this is the thing. If you know who M. Night Shyamalan is, you know one of his directorial, like, styles, and you'll know going into a film, hey, I know what to look out for here. If you see a film with Sheen Bean, Sheen Bean,
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean,
Jesus,
Sean Bean,
Sean
with Sean
Bourne.
Bean in it. If
Well,
he's in
that's
the
another
film,
debate
if
about
this if
Sean Bean.
he's in the film, you very likely that something will happen, and you can be like,
Disagree.
yep, it's gonna happen. Oh, no, but it
I
does.
disagree with Sean Bean. I'm the biggest Sean Bean fan there is, and I can tell you
Oh
right now, I
yeah,
could
yeah.
for
Well, I don't
every
know if we can
death
trust
scene,
you, Carl.
for every death scene, for every death
Oh,
scene
don't
in
give it
Sean
away. Oh
No,
no.
for every death scene there is in a Sean Bean movie, I can name you one where he doesn't die. People just, yeah, he dies. Someone made a Sean Bean death montage, and they were just like, fuck, he dies in every movie. I'm telling you now, Christopher Lee, you could make a Christopher Lee death montage saying he dies in every movie. Like, it works with any actor who plays villains. And for the most part, Sean Bean, I can name more movies where he doesn't die, but that's another topic for another day. Adam, can you go on and say, yeah,
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two separate issues here which can get a little bit mixed up. One is talking to individuals who you probably know, and the other is, let's say, publishing information, for example, on the internet. Because if I'm in a conversation with someone I know, I can I can ask, like, are you interested in seeing this film? Do you want to be spoiled? What do how much do you want me to tell you? And I think that's just as a general rule the way to go.
Yeah.
Because for me, there are films which I'm super interested in and I will go and see eventually. And I don't want to know anything about it going in. And I'll tell people, look, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know anything. I've avoided trailers. I want to go in completely fresh. And there's other movies where...
Sorry, what's an example of one of those films? Curious.
Well, for one example, episode 7 before it came out.
Same.
Like I was like, I'm going to see this movie one way or another. So I don't need people to tell me what they thought. I don't need to read reviews or look at or watch the trailer or anything. I just went in completely blind.
You know what? Funny enough, I did as well.
Same.
So you guys, it's just like, I was not interested until, funnily enough, I saw a Lego remake of the trailer. I went, oh, I'm actually kind of interested now. Let's go watch the film. All right. Just a second of it. Just be like,
but on the contrary, there are films which, maybe I have some vague idea. People say, oh, have you seen such and such? And I'm like, not really. It's like, oh, I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm just like, dude, I could not care less. Like, there is a 99% chance I'm never going to see this film. If you told me every plot point, I don't care. Either I'll see it, in which case I can still appreciate it. I mean, if it's not my thing, it's not like I'm missing out on the core experience anyway to begin with. And if I don't see it, then I haven't lost anything.
yeah.
And I do want to say that I think for the vast majority of films, not all of them, but the vast majority, being spoiled is not a bad thing. I don't think it really influences the viewing experience as much as people think it does.
What? No.
Yeah, no, I think there's some films where, there's some films where everything's built on something that if you knew what it was beforehand, it would ruin it. But yeah, I'll agree. For a lot of films, a spoiler is not that bad.
A director makes we did a lot of work on when I was studying about optimal viewing experience and about how literally a director makes a movie with the sole every step of a movie, every piece of dialogue, every scene is built on the fact that you don't know anything. You're going in fresh. And then the trailers are made afterwards. The director has a vision and they want to project it in a certain way, in a certain pacing and everything. And you having spoilers completely ruins that. Like if I made a movie and then I knew that people were going in with massive spoilers, you're pretty much ruining my art. That's not how I intended it to be viewed.
That's not how art works.
That's way
also,
too
fuck you.
candid, Carl. Jeez.
Fuck you, directors. I do what I want.
That's literally like, what are we doing tomorrow? Oh, I can't tell you anything. It's like, well, okay, I can assume we're gonna have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there will be food, right? That's how it's gonna work. And I'll probably have some, you can construct film, especially so many films, just from it's gonna be 3-act structure. You're gonna have a hero, the hero's journey. If you look at a certain poster, you might be like, okay, it looks like a revenge film by the way the poster's shot and everything. Okay, so you're gonna go in there slightly spoiled. You're never gonna go into a film completely blind.
I have though, and I have when I went and saw, so I went to the movies. Basically, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, we're booked tickets for this movie." I'm like, "Okay," and it was called Nocturnal Animals, and I'm like, I have no clue what the hell that is. I know nothing. I knew zero, and we're driving there to the movies. And I just went in. I had a clean slate. I'd never seen anything. I watched this movie, and it was probably the best movie of that year. I think it came out in 2016 or 2015. It was my favorite experience of the year because I literally went in with no idea. I haven't even seen a poster. I didn't know whether it was a comedy or anything. And it was just a fantastic experience. And I wished, as I finished watching that movie, I wished I had that same experience for every single movie I watched.
Yeah, but
you can't, Carl, because most movies are trash.
And the name will give it away,
No, but look, I mean, if I'm going to the movies with friends for fun, as an experience, I can enjoy it regardless of the movie itself. And I'm happy to take someone's word for it. If it's a movie that I think maybe I don't have any interest in, and I'm talking to maybe one of you guys, someone whose tastes I can count on. I'll say, and you say, no, go in fresh. We'll watch it together. I'll be like, all right. I'll stay spoiler free and I'll trust in you. But the fact is that, first of all, most movies are garbage, and second of all, most people taste in movies is garbage. So if some random guy I know is like, hey, you should really watch this movie, I'm gonna be like, no, fuck you. It's probably terrible.
I think, Carl, what you were describing there, though, is like it's two different ways of experiencing a film, where yours is complete surprise and the excitement of the unknown, of like what this film's going to be. And for other people, it is like a confirmation of what they were expecting. And maybe it's better than what they were expecting. Or maybe it was, something surprising happened when they weren't expecting. Like they had an idea of what the film was going to be, and it chucked that on its head, you know. Maybe that was people like the latest Star Wars film. I don't know. It's you can still, even if you have an idea what the film's going to be like, you can still really enjoy it. It might be your best, the best experience you've had, in ages.
Well,
My
yeah.
I'll say with Inception was a film for me that I like is one of my favorite films of all time. Not because of all the mechanics and the style that goes into it, though I really enjoyed that. It was just one scene that I saw coming out of nowhere that wasn't in the trailers or anything. And that was why I was like, that touched me quite emotionally, that scene. And I was like, damn, like I love this film. This is fantastic. And I'd seen trailers and I'd kind of gotten built up to it, and it was just it was a film I've watched like 10 times, I think. I absolutely love that film. But I kind of went in there and I still found something new to find in there. So I don't know. I feel definitely difference in perspective of what you're looking for in a film. Definitely. It's not, going spoiler freezing for everybody, but going in with tons of spoilers, I think, going out of your way to spoil films or any kind of media is, in a public setting, definitely not a good thing. No, that's pretty mean.
It's just pretty dickish. I
Yeah.
think we can all agree on that.
For the last topic, we were going to talk about. So we're going to talk about what we don't like that everyone else likes. Something we hate that everyone else likes. So, Andy, I know you've already prepared something, so let's hear yours first.
Okay. This is very specific to a couple of films and games I've played, but I think it's described as like John Woo special effects where people are flipping around, time slowing down. And look, I love The Matrix. I love in that universe, it makes sense that people can do that because it's a video game. You can change reality. If you're in a TV show, a reality where you shouldn't be able to do these things, like it's just real life, then don't do it. Like, don't. All right.
But Andy, how will you express how much of a badass these people are?
To give you okay. I'll give you an example of how badass this is. You have the awesome game series Metal Gear or Metal Gear Solid, the first one on the PlayStation. The graphics were quite primitive, and they decided to remake it when they brought out the second game. I'm trying to remember what they renamed it as.
No,
it wasn't Snake Eater. So
Twin
Sons of Liberty was the
Snakes.
second game. Yeah, Twin Snakes.
And it was for the
Twin
GameCube.
Snakes for the GameCube, and they redid all the animations and they put in this effect. So at one point, right, our hero, Solid Snake, has been fighting a hind helicopter, which is being piloted by his clone brother. And he's been fighting and firing Stinger missiles. He's dueling on top of a tower in the middle of this ice storm. And you're like, all right, that's a pretty cool scene. There is a sequence where once you do enough damage, it goes into a cutscene where his brother, who's called Liquid Snake, yells out, "Snake!" Fires a missile. Solid Snake, our hero, does a backflip, jumps off the missile, and then fires his own missile midair, and then blows up the helicopter. And I'm just sitting there going, but why? this is only one sequence from there. There's another one where another boss, Sniper Wolf, this Russian. Actually, wait, no. Oh, I don't know if she's Russian. That'd be bad because I know story-wise. Anyway, she is
No
set up with a
spoilers, Andy.
sniper rifle. She is shut up. I'm going totally to spoilers here. She
I'm
is
not gonna
set
play
up.
it, so.
She is an ace sniper. You walk out into this this open kind of valley. She's on one end, you're on the other. She snipes the gun out of your hand, right? And in the following battle, you manage to get your gun back and you're firing back at her, and she's going in between like different vantage points to shoot at you. At one point, she shoots the gun out of your hand again. And you're like, oh no, this is it for Snake, and it's a cutscene, right? You're like, this is it for Snake, that's it. But no, this is part of the plan. Because now Snake does another backflip, catches the gun, does a 360, and then shoots her on the other side of the valley. And you're just sitting there going, but why? But what happened to my gritty realism? Where is it gone? What is
Hey,
this?
Andy,
Is literally just
did this only
it's just
happen?
awful.
Did this only happen in the Twin Snakes remake, or is it also in the original?
Look,
This
the
kind of.
original, I will say, is not like the primitive graphics hold it back a lot. I can understand that probably that might have been the vision of the original. It's already hammy enough in a lot of ways. I mean, it's got the quintessential line. Oh no, I can't remember it. You have this guy who falls in love with the sniper, and he goes, oh, "Can you?" Oh no, hang on. I have to find the quote. But it is certainly a very different game with all this prancing about and special. It just spoils the whole thing for me. So that is something I hate, but some people love John Woo films and they love that kind of stuff. And I just don't understand it.
Can I ask a question? Because I think we're all going to be talking about very disparate things, so maybe it
Not
makes sense to go
necessarily.
person by person.
Yeah, go for it.
But I was just going to ask Andy, like, do you think that maybe it's not so much a question of that style in itself, but more just stylistic consistency? Because films which I think are consistently, let's say, hyper real, in the sense where maybe, I mean, okay, these sorts of things are not realistic, but I don't know, in something like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where it's obviously not supposed to be real exactly, but it's a stylistic choice to have these kinds of, very elaborate fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to me much more reasonable and much more effective than your examples, which are more just like randomly implausible feats of skill which don't fit in otherwise in the work.
Yes, but I have seen there's other films that use a similar aspect. And look, I will accept that they are a lot of them are series which I have previous experience with, and then in this iteration of it, they've added in all those stylistic effects, and I've really not liked them all. Which is why I'm just like, it's the style that I really don't like. It's not like I can watch some Chinese martial arts films or stuff where they are. It feels like it's a more, especially if it's like a like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where they're literally climbing up, jumping up, walking up walls, jumping, leaping over things. I'm like, all right, I feel like this is either a story or it's almost fantasy. I can take that. The rules of reality don't quite hold up here, but in a lot of other respects, it's like in a lot of other shows, it's like, all right, I feel like there is a level that is set, and then it's kind of just thrown away for a very silly, but this is really cool when you look at it kind of move, and it just bugs me. It absolutely bugs me. It totally takes me out.
I'm really glad you mentioned this topic, Andy, because it's very similar to why I don't like mine, and I'm glad Adam mentioned Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I want to also say that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I totally agree with Andy on this one. And I actually can go as far as say I don't like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because of the fact of it's over stylized, like how they're jumping everywhere. Like think about Kill Bill and things like that. Because I kind of felt like when they started doing that in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I was like, okay, they can fly around now. Like, why weren't they doing that 10 minutes ago when she was running away from all the ninja people? So it was kind of like, I really can't stand that style. And the main thing that I wanted to talk about, so you guys know, this kind of, I kind of jump back to your point, Andy, with this one, because as you guys know, I'm a big, I really speak negatively about superheroes, okay? Now, for the longest time, I tried to get into superheroes. I couldn't figure out why I didn't like them. I don't like superhero comics. I don't like superhero movies. I don't like anything about them. And the main reason I drew, like the why I don't like superheroes, and it took me a while to figure this out, is because of a similar reason to Andy, where it just like they don't set a foundation. So like think like Lord of the Rings, you set that expectation. Okay, Gandalf's a wizard, but this is what he can and can't do. He has a human body. This is what he can and can't do. You think about Jedis. This is what Jedis can and can't do. So that way, when those characters get into certain situations, you know, oh wow,
Yeah.
I actually feel like holy shit, this could be something like really scary for the character. The character's in danger. But what happens in superhero movies is suddenly, oh, that superhero powers up or something. It's like the Dragon Ball Z phenomenon. It's like I'm just gonna power up to the next level, or the superhero hero is gonna get access to the hidden gem that gives him the extra power. There's no actual sense of urgency. There's no sense of like dread there that something bad's gonna happen to the character. And I feel like what Andy's saying, like, oh, a missile is coming towards this character. Oh wait, now he can jump on missiles, like. And I think that was what was so jarring about that Jedi like scenes in Star Wars, where like Princess Leia can now fly through the vacuum of space, and in episode 1 where the Jedis can do super speed. And it's just like, wait, whoa, this changes everything, and it just kind of ruins the whole experience. And that's why I really don't like superhero movies when everyone else seems to love them.
Yeah, I feel superhero films, a lot of it gets stuck, especially like if you look at the first Avengers films, it's like, all right, the stakes are they're in the city, the robot army is destroying everything, and you're like, wow, the stakes are really high here. It's like, how are they going to defeat all these enemies? And it's just like, all right, we're gonna blow up the gizmo, and when they do, suddenly it's like all the robots die, and it's just like that's another pet peeve. It's just like you kill one, everybody else just disappears or dies. But it's like they almost have like a Deus Ex Machina moment where it's just like, oh, we've raised the stakes so high and everything's so bad, we actually have to have like literally something to come down and save everybody because otherwise they're stuffed. Like they're just
Yeah,
not
they'll
going to
just
make it out.
add things as the plot goes around. Oh, we actually have to do this now. We have to get this, and then everything's going to be fine. And even in that scene, like that movie Avengers, suddenly just at the end, like the whole thing was that the Hulk can't control his anger. That's the whole thing. And then suddenly, when the plot needed it, it was like, oh, Hulk can now control his anger. Like there's no stakes at all. Like
Yeah.
it just can chop and change wherever to suit the plot. And I think that's just the worst part about superhero movies. And like I really didn't like Kill Bill for that fact as well, like those martial arts movies, because I'm like, what can't they do? You haven't established that at the start. It's like they're in this situation where there's all these people in these crazy eccentric martial arts movies. They're surrounded by people. Oh, they jump up in the air. Oh, it turns out they can like jump up 50 feet. It's like I don't get that same feeling.
I mean, I'm going to ask you, Carl, the same, let's say, in principle or in spirit, the same question that I asked Andy, which is your problem really with these kind of superhero films and martial arts films, or is it more just that you don't like lazy writing? You know.
No, I think that no, these kind of films could never work. You could never. I kind of get where you're coming from, Adam. You might be onto something, but I just feel like I've never seen it done. I love how the only superhero movies I can enjoy somewhat are like Batman and stuff, where you know he's a human being. Like even Superman, how it's just established at the start, like kryptonite is his thing. We know it's bad, but even then, like Superman just suddenly can just do all kinds of things. Oh, it turns out Superman can turn back time. He just
Very
like
handy. Yeah.
makes everything redundant. Like it's just like there's no stakes ever set at the start. Yeah, you could say that's lazy writing, but you could say it's just comes with the superhero genre, that they should be able to just do anything and everything.
Yeah, or it's a case of they rise to the occasion to meet the new threat, and they're being the hero, like they have to defeat it in some respect, or which I feel like this is why the Infinity War film is probably one of the few superhero films or the Marvel films I've enjoyed, and I haven't watched a lot of Marvel films in a while. Um, I enjoyed it just because of how they did it, and it was just like, oh no, like things are gonna get bad. They're gonna get really bad. Have you guys seen Infinity War?
I've
At all?
seen
No.
I've
No,
seen
you
a lot
haven't.
of the predecessor Marvel movies, but I gave up. By the time Infinity War came out, I was like, I've had enough with this.
Like that is definitely something you would never see in a superhero film where
Do
this is.
these heroes stay dead?
Well, we'll find out.
Exactly, that's the
As I said,
thing.
the cosmic
They
guy was just
won't.
like, there must be a way. But but
No, they
but he
won't.
certainly raised the stakes to a point where it's just like all these people we thought the status quo is, yeah, they're gonna beat this guy. They've literally just been upping the stakes year after year after year, film after film of like, we've got to save and stop the world. We've got to stop him from destroying the universe. And suddenly we actually have a bad guy who goes, yep, half the population of the universe disappears.
And it's gonna be
And
like
he
the Dragon
wins.
Z movies, the TV shows where they just bring them back with the Dragon Balls. I bet you
Yeah,
they'll
but it,
come
it,
up with
it's
some crystals that do something that brings them
it,
all back.
yeah, maybe. And that's something I really never liked about the Dragon Ball series is that they could just bring everybody back and the power levels just kept going up. But okay, we don't know that. The possibility is maybe some of these people are gone and they'll never come back. Or at least the scars of this will be felt throughout. Like this is some dark stuff that's happened here. And it's just like, you know, I was actually like, I'm impressed that they did that. I'm genuinely impressed. I'm like, that was a good film for that ending and for some of the other kind of lead-in bits where the Guardians of the Galaxy, some of the Marvel characters I enjoy. But I was seriously sitting there going, wow, like, you know what? Not bad, Marvel. You actually surprised me with that. So,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I share Carl's skepticism that it'll stay that
Oh
way.
yeah, no, don't worry. I'll tell you. They'll probably work on trying to still save the day. They're not going to let that be the status quo. But just the fact that they raised the stakes and literally went, all these people that you've been watching for years, gone. There's not going to be another Spider-Man film. There's not.
That's
Well,
right. They're gonna
we were just
be
funny enough. New
they're gonna
Spider-Man
re
films out. It's an
But
animated
Andy, I
one,
mean,
so
this
it's
is
completely
is this
different.
not is this not kind of what you were complaining about before? Which is, I mean, the constant well, you especially, Carl, I think. I
yeah.
mean, this constant raising of stakes. You literally cannot raise the stakes any higher than half of the population of the universe.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, where do you go from there?
well, now,
It's
now that's happened, you can now focus on, all right, how do we reverse
But
that
the thing
rather
yeah,
than
but
we
Andy, this
stopped
is
him.
just playing out, the issue that comics have had
But
basically
okay,
since
Adam, I will
their
tell you
invention.
this.
You at some point you have to hit the reset button and start again,
Yeah, no, no, no,
or you
no.
Very
just keep
true.
expand. Now we have more universes, and
Yeah, no, no.
it's
Yeah, I
I
agree.
totally get you there, Adam. But in the same sense, I still think this is better than just being, oh, they stopped him at the end, and they're just like, no one will ever grip this power again. We're here to we've saved the day once again. Good old, God bless America, and it's just like you don't have to worry about that. Like they've actually
It
got
will
like
happen.
I feel like the stakes have been like it's more revenge now rather than trying to stop or avenge or anything. It's just like, all right, it's got a darker tone now. Now it changes, the vibe of the whole kind of franchise. So I
Hey
was just
Adam,
like, yeah, okay, cool.
Adam, is there anything that you dislike that everyone else likes?
well, my answer is going to be very, very different to the two of yours. But that's okay because this was my topic suggestion. So actually, you two are the ones who answered it wrong.
Wow, okay, jeez.
no,
Sorry.
no. I'm just joking. But what I was going to say was just the game of Scrabble. Fuck Scrabble. Just fuck Scrabble.
Oh,
I'm
see,
not even bad.
I
I'm not
thought it
even
was
bad at
too
Scrabble.
simple. I could,
No, I mean, I you can ask people who I've played Scrabble with, and I'm not saying I'll dominate every game of Scrabble. I won't. There are better Scrabble players out there than I, but I think I usually do pretty well for myself. I'm not a bad Scrabble player, but fuck Scrabble.
All Scrabble is an argument over what's a word and what's not.
You
That's
know what?
not the game.
You know what? I think, guys, this is conspiracy here. Scrabble is just there to sell dictionaries. That's all it's there for. That's all it's there for. Oxford went, how do we make a game that forces people to spell and come up with bullshit ways of beating each other by coming up with dumb words? Like, if you look at the Scrabble championships, the letters they're putting in there are so specific. Like, it's so gamey. Like, it's like
Yeah.
is like one, and I'm like, what is the hell's that from? Oh, it's a very it's an official term used by publicists. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, thanks, man.
I've had people try to convince me that actually Scrabble is a deeply strategic game played on the, on the professional level. And I'm not going to say that's not the case, but I have read at least 2 articles on Scrabble at the professional level, and thus am therefore qualified to comment.
Yeah, that's 2 more than me.
But I mean, and what Andy says is bang on. I feel like Scrabble eventually just becomes a game of 1, memorizing the dictionary, and 2, just metagaming, just constantly metagaming. And I think that's not particularly interesting, certainly to me.
I thought you hate Monopoly the most, Adam.
I do hate Monopoly.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not saying I hate it more or less necessarily, but I'm allowed to hate more than one board game at a time. Today the focus is on Scrabble. Next week it can be on Monopoly.
Yeah, I don't understand why people still love Monopoly.
I mean, I'm always a little bit hesitant to say this. Let's say there's the 1% of me which is hesitant because at one point I used to feel, okay, not quite so strongly, but similarly in some ways about chess, because I think when I don't know if I would say when I was taught chess, but when I learned chess, you have a certain perception of what the game is supposed to be, what the spirit of the game is. And it's that, it's this game of improvisation, 2 people battling each other psychologically, intellectually, creatively at the board. And I mean, I used to play chess in high school reasonably well. I got a couple of medals for myself. But I was not the best. I was not the best player at my school.
Jeez, those medals would have got the ladies for sure.
Oh yeah. But I remember one time very distinctly, like the probably the first domino falling, which led to my losing interest in chess, was talking to the guy on the school chess team who was the best, and he was talking about how he had borrowed the ECO, the Encyclopedia of Chess Openings, from the library, and was just like reading through it, memorizing lines, and I thought, holy shit, that is A, so fucking boring, and B, it kind of felt like a betrayal of that ideal which I had in my mind. And it's an unfair ideal because it's kind of a silly thing to expect. Like, you don't, no one says, oh, you don't really know calculus if you haven't derived it from first principles yourself, like Newton. You're allowed to be taught things. You're allowed to learn things from a book.
Yeah.
But and so maybe there's a similar kind of aspect to this with Scrabble, because I think also it's a game which is sort of portrayed as an exercise in how many words do you know, how smart are you, how good are you at spelling, questions which are of great intellectual importance to all young children. But beyond that, it's just if you have to sit down and memorize a dictionary, then it's not really a game of like how well read are you as a person. It's just how good are you at memorizing meaningless strings of letters from a list, which is...
Well, is this... Hang on, well, I'll ask you a question now.
Not that that's the
Adam.
entirety of Scrabble, I should say. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, there's more to it, but this is a perception which is perhaps adding an unfair, I don't know, aspect to my assessment of the situation. But
Yeah.
and I should make the point that I'm playing a lot of chess now again, and I'm really enjoying it.
Mm.
So who knows? Maybe in 20 years, Scrabble will become my favorite game. It's possible.
All right, Adam. Well,
There's that 1% chance.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a question since you asked me and Carl. Whereas, is it specifically the metagaming aspect of it, where you've come across people who are, or you've read up articles, and it's just been like, you're almost like, that is so petty. Like the lengths you've gone to win this game, that is almost, like, I won't say petty because, like, you know, there are obvious strategies, but it kind of ruins the luster of a game of, say, let's go with Scrabble. It's just a bunch of mates playing, and you organically learn these interesting words that can, you know, win you big points or get you out of a jam when you've got some really bad combinations. Organic, rather than just being like, okay, here's like 20, like these are the 20 words you need to know in Scrabble to get you, that'll get you a ton of points, and you can use all the time. They're like the optimal ones that you can use to get out of a jam. You know, like having that level of drive for a game.
There is an element of that, but that's not really the main thing. The main thing is I just don't think it's a very interesting game.
Well, what about
the strategy of it to me is reasonably basic, and people who bring out Scrabble as like a game for intellectuals, I think is just a bit...
Well, yeah, well, I definitely doubt that. But I've had a very quite enjoyable or different view on Scrabble, where I recently went on a bushwalk and we got stuck in a cabin, and I was playing Scrabble with a bunch of people, and, you know, I was very much struggling. But then Peter, who's this 74-year-old great man that, you know, used to be bushwalking with ages, kind of revealed to me that he plays Scrabble with his wife, but they end up just helping each other. Like, they actually look at each other's letters and be like, oh, what can you get out of this? What can you get out of that?
But Andy, you just proved my point. Scrabble is a terrible fucking game.
No, that's not the game. Like,
they can't even enjoy it by playing it properly.
No.
They have to turn it into a word jigsaw puzzle.
They've taken away that competitive aspect and just been like, well, how can we work together to make, like, you know, these really interesting words, or like really build stuff out? You know, I just felt it was, for me, I've always been like, Scrabble's very solitary. You know, whereas this was like, all right, well, how do we, you know...
How can it be solitary? It's a game which literally requires multiple players.
You work
Are we talking about the same thing?
Adam, I mean, your decision-making is all by yourself, whereas, see, this was a group, all right? Just, it was a touching moment between a man talking about him playing Scrabble with his wife, all right, you monster. Take it and throw it in the bin.
I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry.
Well, you did say you hate it, so, you know, justify it, Adam. Justify it. Oh.
I wanted to do a very strange comparison here and go ahead and compare Scrabble to Call of Duty. Okay, so
well, hang on. Which Call of Duty are we talking about? Because some of them are okay.
No, it doesn't matter. So basically,
which Scrabble? Are we talking about original Scrabble?
Are we talking about
Scrabble 4, Modern Warfare?
Upwards?
Are we talking about Boggle? So
controversial spin-offs.
Yeah.
So with Call of Duty, I found that, like, when I was really into Call of Duty growing up, it was like they would release a Call of Duty game. It would be really fun for like a week. And then after about a week, I would find that the people playing the game, they would find some way to break the game. Like, they would find some exploit that they could do, and it would literally just collapse the game. Like, it would be so unbalanced and I feel like it's not something that the developers ever intended. It was like, we broke the game. It's not the game's fault, but it's like us as like humans, we've found some way to ruin it. And do you think that, just putting it out there, do you think that could be the case with Scrabble? Like, the people making Scrabble never intended it to just be like a word dictionary, like memorization game, or a game in which, what's a real word and what's not? Like, do you think it just we broke the game.
The competitive nature of man is strives you to win and find the optimal strategy. I like that. That's a nice one, Carl. Yeah, what do you say, Adam?
Nah, it's just garbage.
Just intellectual conversation.
The Scrabble
God,
people,
this is sick.
the Scrabble people should have understood my fucking need to win. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm looking forward to the hotfix they bring in a Scrabble where it's just like no bullshit words, no dictionaries allowed. If you can't convince people it's a word,
They need to nerf those 2-letter words.
Yeah, they do. They really do. It's a problem when you say you can input anything that's in a dictionary. It's just like, okay, asking for it there.
But
Yeah,
also, there's all those like arbitrary, let's say semi-arbitrary rules about what counts as a word. No proper nouns.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
this sort of stuff.
It can't be a noun, or it
Proper
can't be a
noun.
proper noun or something. It's just.
well, that's why I stopped playing categories. Like I used to be into categories for a little while, but there was just too many arguments over what actually counts as that category, and it just ruined the game. Like,
Yeah, it turns something that should just be some like simple fun into like, all right, guys, we're literally fighting over like whether squibble is a word. Like, do you understand what this family is coming to? This is pretty bad.
but I definitely think we're the type of people, just judging by our games that we play, we like rules. We understand that rules mean can people don't get that sometimes rules actually means fun, and without rules it's just chaos and it's no longer fun.
Yeah,
I think
it is true.
we
It is
we
true.
Yeah,
get that, like whenever we play any kind of game. Yeah, like me and Troy can be a bit more relaxed when it comes to 40k rules and stuff compared to you and Adam, but for the most part we do all, like in any other rule game we play, we really like to just set the rules at the very start and enjoy, and so that we have fun throughout the whole game.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not pro rules lawyering, not by any means, but following the rules somewhat paradoxically generally makes games better, which I know
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but
I mean,
I mean I'm not backing down from my point that Monopoly is garbage. But the way that most people play Monopoly makes it a worse experience than it should be.
Definitely.
Because if you don't follow the proper rules of Monopoly, then yeah, you get these games which drag on for like 10
Oh, yeah.
hours and
People
do
just
you
make up their own. They combine teams. They have the free parking rule. They do whatever they want.
yeah,
I
that
once
was
can I tell you about a quick? This is a real quick
please,
one.
please,
So
Carl.
I'm sure
when
this is going to
I
be the
was
exact same as what I was going to say, Carl. So
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no, it's not. So talking about stupid Monopoly rules. So I was really into Monopoly at a certain point. I was about 16, 17. I was playing it a lot. And I was playing with a neighbor of mine, and he actually came up with the rule. He said, we're going to play this house rule that you can steal from the bank, but like literally just reach your hand into the bank and take the money as long as no one else sees you take the money. If you take the money and someone sees you, then you have to put it back. That's
Oh, what? So you don't even get charged. You don't get
you
put in
don't.
jail for
So
I'm pretty sure that this is just how Troy, my brother, just plays Monopoly.
that.
I mean, none of the rest of us follow this rule, but
it was the stupidest. It just turned into chaos of just stealing money. But it was the dumbest idea. I don't know.
Yeah, Monopoly in itself is not a fun game to play in my mind. It's very frustrating. All our family games of Monopoly turned into are like a parent and a child teamed up together so they didn't get kicked out. You can't have any sort of kindness in Monopoly. You've got to just be like, you're gone. Get
I
out of
would
here.
do.
That's
I
it.
would. I would do really bad things towards the end of my Monopoly career, as I call it. Um, I
your
would.
dark Monopoly
These
phase.
No,
dark
no,
days.
no. This is bad. Okay, this is
Are you
what
sure
I
you want to
used.
say this on the podcast, Carl? This
Yeah,
is being published online. Like, you
yeah.
know.
This is what. This is the kind of bullshit you can come up with. This is how people break games. Okay, this is what I used to do. So obviously everyone's going for that first set because once you get the first set, it's a big deal. So I would actually say to someone. So say, for example, I've got John and Mary at the table. John's just if he gets something off me, he will get a full set. I would say to Mary, if you don't trade me for that, I'm gonna give this to Mary, and I'm gonna give this to John, and the whole game's gonna be over in like 10 minutes. So literally blackmailing people into giving me their product. I'm like, you can either trade me this, or it's good. The whole game's gonna be ruined because I'm gonna literally give this to John for like $10. Like,
Wow.
and it would like that's to the extent it's like Donald Trump politics, but on a Monopoly.
Just remind me
all
never
I'm
to
gonna
get
say,
on your
Carl.
bad side, Carl. Jeez.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is that I understand now why you're making so much more money than Andy and I. You're climbing that corporate ladder
All those Monopoly
brutally
games.
and without mercy.
If you don't give me that promotion, I'm gonna destroy all the investments. They're all going in the shredder, and I'm gonna just ruin this.
Welcome to the real world. Monopoly is trained as well. Well, that makes Monopoly a great game, doesn't it? It builds up that cutthroat competitive edge you need in the modern world.
This is what the real world is like, little Timmy. Like, do it.
It's not like your Warhammers or anything like that. This is real life. I own your house now. Get out.
Yeah. You're gonna be bankrupt within a few years.
This is a hotel now, Timmy. It costs $500 to stay here. Get out of here. but it's a protest game. That's somehow
It was literally,
pretended to
I mean, the original Monopoly, it's not the same rules exactly as what we play, but the original
it's the same
Monopoly
basic
was made
premise.
made by a socialist activist in the US.
Well, I played
The idea was stolen by a games company and published, and it makes them millions of dollars. So
I know, isn't that like irony right there? Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for our Christmas episode. We'll see you next time on the FMG podcast. See you later, guys.
Merry Christmas,
see you later,
everybody.
everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Laters all.